Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
And sometimes the small moments turn into the big moments.
I just kept going and going and going.
This is amazing. This is great. Nobody ever thinks of us this way.
Today on Spotlight, an exhibit honoring lives lost with thousands of cups of coffee. Plus, how to find rays of sunshine to brighten your day. And then how a simple blood test could determine if a patient has Alzheimer's disease. But first, a popular film from the 80s gets its own musical. Why this is quite the honor for St. Louis. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
New Haven, Connecticut, is a short stretch of sidewalk between the Schubert Theater and the Taft Hotel. It is here that managers have what are called out-of-town openings, which are openings for New Yorkers who want to go out of town.
The list of cities where Broadway shows try out before opening on Broadway is pretty short, but in 2022, it will be getting a little longer.
This is one of the biggest pieces of entertainment news in the history of St. Louis theater.
Starting in January, the Kirkwood Performing Arts Center, the permanent home of Stages St. Louis, will become the starter home for the cast and crew of a new musical based on an old movie.
Wax on, hot. Wax off.
It was one of the most popular films of the 1980s and widely regarded as one of the best sports films of all time.
Daniel-san.
Now, at nearly age 40, The Karate Kid is new again. Same story, but this time the actors will be kicking up their heels dancing while singing to a Japanese-infused pop rock score. And for St. Louis, hosting the musical's pre-Broadway tryout is quite a score.
It has the possibility of being significant because we're hoping that it's not just the Karate Kid, that this becomes a tradition, that St. Louis truly becomes a destination for pre-Broadway musicals.
The Karate Kid the musical was written before the pandemic and recently workshopped in New York. But the final staging and polishing and audience testing is what will be happening in St. Louis. In January, they hope to cast many of the actors here. Come spring, they will also be building the costumes and sets here, culminating in a month-long run of public performances as part of Stages St. Louis's 2022 season, starting on May 25th. And it's all happening at the new, state-of-the-art Kirkwood Performing Arts Center.
When I walked in, I really felt that I found home. I totally, completely fell in love with it.
Kumiko Yoshi, the show's New York-based producer, through a mutual business acquaintance met Jack Lane, Stages St. Louis's executive producer, who for the past 10 years
The Prom
has also been producing shows on Broadway. But because of the pandemic shutdown on Broadway, the waiting list for available theaters in traditional tryout cities like Boston, Chicago, and Los Angeles is incredibly long.
I didn't want to wait. That's when I met Jack Lane, and we started to talk about it, and he told me about this beautiful, brand new performing arts center in Kirkwood.
I read the script, listened to the score before I really went after it, and went, wow, they have found the stage voice of the Karate Kid.
To write the book for the musical, Kumiko Yoshi approached Robert Mark Kamen, who wrote the original Karate Kid screenplay, based loosely on his own experience as a bullied teenager who learned martial arts and life lessons from a real-life Mr. Miyagi. There was only one problem.
He really didn't think the Karate Kid should become a musical. I think he said dumbest idea.
She did her homework on me, and she didn't appeal to me saying, this is a great moment to retell the story. She said, do you know how much money the person who writes the book or owns the rights to a property makes on Broadway if it's a hit? And I said, you had me at gross receipts.
Today, however, Kamen is not just thinking about what he can make, but what they have made. While attending the New York workshop, Kamen became emotional.
I'm watching a whole fresh new take on my 40-year-old thing. And it's new, and it's fresh, and it's exciting, and it brought tears to my eyes.
Today, Kamen spends much of his time running a vineyard he owns in Sonoma, California, which, as it happens, is how Kamen became convinced St. Louis was the right place for the tryout.
I've been to St. Louis selling wine, and I ran it by my wine distributor, and they flipped out. They said, "This is amazing, this is great. You know, nobody ever thinks of us this way." And I said, "Well, this is your lucky day, Bill."
I do believe if we can get this experience right, that Broadway will then go, oh, there is a new city in which to try out. And it will elevate St. Louis in so many ways.
I already got a couple of phone calls asking that I would tell them my experience here because a lot of people are already interested in coming here.
Broadway musicals are risky things, but considering the original movie has had 3 sequels and is now the basis for the popular Netflix series Cobra Kai, the producers are convinced this musical version will surely become a hit.
The excitement that we have felt since it was announced, particularly from our patrons and people that I don't even know, is palpable. They want to be a part of it. They want to support it. And I think there'll be a lot of love that would be exhibited for any production that tries out in St. Louis.
How did you do that? Don't know.
This is major.
First time.
We're here at Laumeier Sculpture Park in the exhibition Aida Shehovich Stotenema. Stotenema actually translates to where have you been or why are you not here. The exhibition is an archive of a project that Aida has been working on for 15 years that was in its first iteration staged in public squares in different cities. And what she would do is collect coffee cups from mostly the Bosnian diaspora in those cities and install them in the public squares and pour coffee to the victims of the Srebrenica genocide.
So Stotenema is a monument made out of small porcelain coffee cups. They're called filđani. These are small cups that we use in Bosnia to drink coffee. Coffee in Bosnia is very much a shared experience. So in this case, the monument, the idea is that each cup symbolically represents one victim, so one person who was killed in the genocide. And the monument becomes alive every July 11th when we place all the collected cups in a public square and fill them with coffee. And the coffee then just sits in the cups waiting for the men who will never return to drink it. I'm an artist interested in making work that responds to mass violence and atrocities because I believe that art has a unique way of bringing us together and allowing us to address those difficult parts of our reality and our history. Srebrenica genocide is the first genocide that happened in Europe after World War II. It's also a genocide committed against Muslims, so in this case Bosniaks or Bosnian Muslims. I felt the responsibility as somebody who is from Bosnia, who has survived the war, mainly as a refugee, to make sure that those innocent civilians who were killed simply because of their name and where they're from were remembered and not forgotten. It's very meaningful to bring the archive of the Stotenema nomadic monument to St. Louis because St. Louis is the home to largest Bosnian diaspora in the world. And many of those living in the Bosnian diaspora in St. Louis are actually families who are from the area of Srebrenica. So they have been directly impacted by the Srebrenica genocide. So it's been very important for me as an artist and caretaker of this monument to be able to bring it to St. Louis and share it with those Bosnian families, but also with the larger St. Louis community.
Recognizing that we have a very large population of Bosnians living here in St. Louis, we wanted to work with Aida in connecting with that community, especially here at Laumeier, in a way that would provide a space for healing as well. This exhibition continues through December 19th, and for more information, you can visit laumeiersculpturepark.org.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
A big belly laugh that brings tears to your eyes. That sound when you sink a shot in air hockey. Finding a photo of your grandparents when they were young. There are certain things in life that just make us smile. You can't help it.
If you really think about it, there's all of these sort of touchstones that we all have. Like if you're having a bad day, go listen to this song, go watch this movie, go read this book, think about this thing from a long time ago. One of my favorite things is like the pile of coats on top of the bed. It was just such a visceral memory for me as a child.
As COVID-19 shut down the world, Todd Doughty decided we all needed to be reminded and sometimes introduced to these joyful things, like the song by the Goat Rodeo Sessions that's been playing since the beginning of this video. So he started what he called Happy Making Things in a Difficult World on his Instagram feed.
We were so isolated at that time, and then what would happen is just like people would add their own thoughts to it, and it was like, oh, I didn't think of that, or why didn't I think of that, or that's a good one. And it was sort of this communal experience in isolation, if that makes any sense.
Today, those original Instagram lists are combined with mixtape suggestions, heartwarming essays, encouraging quotes, suggestions for things to do today, and more than 40 new happy-making entries to create Little Pieces of Hope, a book with more than 3,000 items to make you smile.
These are just a couple of postcards. There's Ella Fitzgerald and Matt LeBlanc, both made it into the book.
A self-proclaimed pack rat, Todd Doughty talks about the inspirations for his book's content, including his Midwestern roots.
I've got my shirt on. I went to SIU Carbondale. I don't think that I didn't dress up for this. It was a chosen, attire. I am a proud Saluki. What I hope now is that people can read this, they can start making their own lists, they can start listening to the playlist, they can pass along their little piece of hope to somebody else, just kind of get that little burst of happiness.
How did Little Pieces of Hope begin?
The WHO declared a global pandemic, and I, for some reason, just popped into my head that day, I'm going to make a list of happy-making things. Our offices shut down on Friday the 13th. On the train home, I started thinking about things that have brought me joy in life. And that was everything from New York City to Fat Goldfish to Katharine Hepburn's entrance in The Lion in Winter. And it became this little short list of a bunch of different things. People seemed to respond really well. It was on my Instagram. And then the next day, I just kept going and going and going. And, here we are today.
The essays in this book really get you thinking. I mean, I will be watching It's a Wonderful Life much differently than I have in the past. Thanks to an article you have about Mary Bailey.
Everybody looks at that movie and you think like George is the hero. And to some extent, sure, but it's Mary when you really start to watch it that's kind of behind the scenes, sort of moving everything along, be it from, she's the one that places the call to Uncle Billy at the very end. She's the one that renovates the house. She's the one that saves the savings and loan. And I think we've all known somebody like that in our life. I even name a few people in my own life that have been like Mary Bailey. I think everybody has a Mary Bailey in their life, and I think that she's a pretty darn good role model. One of the things that I said at the very beginning is there may be things on the list that you don't know, that if we, discover them together, or there's, that moment that sparks you to take a look, that's an amazing connection between us. Conversely, if there are things on the list that you don't like, I even say, get out your pen, exit through, and add your own little piece of hope.
Scan the QR code on your screen with your phone's camera to watch the full interview and find out why he says you don't have to read his book all the way through. Or you could just head to hecmedia.org.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education, to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Accurately diagnosing Alzheimer's disease can be a challenge. MRI procedures, a PET scan, or spinal tap are used to diagnose. For patients and families, the testing is an added expense and burden, possibly very difficult for the patient, so it may never get done. Without testing, doctors can't be sure as other forms of dementia masquerade as Alzheimer's.
The misdiagnosis rate, it's a high number. And if you ask a doctor, they'll say, yeah, I'm pretty confident it's Alzheimer's. They'll be wrong 30 to 40% of the time.
Joel Braunstein is the CEO of C2N Diagnostics in St. Louis. The company has accomplished something new, an Alzheimer's blood test that's now on the market.
We were really the first group to introduce a blood test to the market to aid in the clinical diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. We've been working with a number of physicians in rural communities who say we are hundreds of miles away from the nearest PET scanning facility, or we really don't engage in frequent cerebrospinal fluid sampling. The availability of a blood test that the patient can take conveniently without having to travel a long distance is very appealing.
The blood samples are processed at C2N's lab. Dr. Randall Bateman, professor of neurology at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, is a scientific co-founder. The blood test, called PrecivityAD, is a result of Dr. Bateman's research with Dr. David Holtzman at WashU. The blood test measures levels of amyloid beta protein. The proteins clump together to form amyloid plaques in the brain, the first sign of Alzheimer's disease.
In blood, just like in cerebrospinal fluid, this amyloid beta 42 to 40 ratio is altered in the blood, used to highly specifically identify who has amyloid plaques.
Amyloid plaque pathology is really the earliest indicator. You can even identify abnormal patterns of amyloid processing 15, 20 years before the onset of clinical symptoms in Alzheimer's disease.
Early diagnosis may help patients before the disease progresses.
Useful for clinical trials as well as patient care.
New this year, an FDA-approved drug targeting the amyloid beta protein to reduce plaques in the brain.
Aducanumab, which is Biogen's drug. So that's an amyloid-modifying drug.
Because amyloid plaques may slowly collect in the brain for 2 decades or more without causing cognitive problems, C2N is engaged in advancing clinical trials with the goal of identifying those individuals to prevent the devastating symptoms of Alzheimer's disease.
There's a lot of studies that are required to make sure that now if you're offering a test that can identify disease, let's say 10 years before the onset of symptoms, what are the implications of that to the patient?
To find out more, you can find the full story on our website, hecmedia.org.
We'll put you in the holiday spirit with some music later on Spotlight.
So, you think I'd be used to it at this point, but every time I see all these people converge, it's just, I'm almost awestruck. It's almost leaves me speechless at times. Laura found her lump on October 2nd of 2013.
As the seasons change, one date reminds friends and family of a sense of loss, yet inspires a community. As Tom Wiley's wife began a 2-year battle with breast cancer, Laura had many bad days. But on this day, December 5th, she had a good one.
There she was. She was making pancakes. And the first thing that she told me was how great she felt.
The family felt normal for the first time in months. They put up Christmas decorations and saw the lights in Tillis Park.
We didn't talk about cancer. You know, we just had this day full of small little moments.
Laura died the next month. In the weeks that followed, Tom reflected on that one great day.
So that's when I started coming up with the idea of giving families whose lives have been affected by cancer just a day of moments, a day of experiences.
Joined by friends, Wiley launched the December 5th Fund, a not-for-profit group aimed at giving families dealing with cancer one good day.
I knew Tom wanted to do something to honor Lara, so when he brought this idea around, I just knew it was the right thing to do.
Each great day looks different. In this scenario, an army of volunteers do a massive cleanup, reorganization, and needed repairs inside and outside a home in Des Peres, while the family enjoys a day out.
Right now what we're doing is we're taking everything out of the cabinets, sort of reorganizing, putting like things together, making more space too for other things. We'll be doing all the dishes as well, getting all the clean dishes put away so that they just come back to a sparkling kitchen.
Sometimes the house fix part is a surprise, but in this case the group met with a mom who is sick, who had some things she wanted done for her family, like a basketball hoop for her children.
And this was her vision of what she wanted, and so it's just really inspiring and just really makes you feel good that you're just kind of taking some of those worries away from the mom.
And I know that it's just you're so inundated with the day-to-day requirements of that person that everything else falls down around you, and living in a mess tends to wear on you mentally as well. You feel better, you come home to a nice house, to the yard work, as opposed to going, oh great, I've got to now go out and mow the lawn, weed whack, fix the gutter, all of these things, which aren't important to you because obviously the loved one's wellness is more important, but it's still something that, I need to do it. So it removes that burden, if only for a few weeks, months, something like that.
Many of these volunteers traveled the cancer journey with Tom and his family. Jennifer Schaefer was one of Laura's closest friends.
When I lost a best friend, I wanted to give back and help people and kind of help heal my heart.
Beth Warman joined the volunteer crew after the December 5th Fund helped a relative also battling breast cancer.
It was super emotional. She was completely overwhelmed, and it was very touching. It was, they came together and did this great day for her and her kids, and it was great.
Every family situation is unique, and so is their special day out, which sometimes include behind-the-scenes tours at sporting events, movies, concerts, and meals with friends. The idea to relieve the burdens back home stems from Wiley's personal situation as well. People would show up at his house to clean, do laundry, and other tasks without being asked.
Yeah, Jared hasn't fallen off the roof yet, so it's a good day.
Yeah.
When my wife was going through all this, I had the same kind of support, but I never asked for it. People would just show up to my house, they do the laundry, they clean the house, they do whatever they could to show support for us. And that's why we do this.
In its first year, the December 5th Fund gave a great day to 7 families. Its supporters also do special events on December 5th, including random acts of kindness around the St. Louis area. It's a way, Tom says, to remember Laura and move forward in a way that spreads joy to families during a tumultuous time.
Sometimes the small moments turn into the big moments.
To learn more about the December 5th Fund, visit December5th.org. You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
Christmas time is here. Happiness and cheer. Fun for all that children call their favorite time of year. Snowflakes in the olden times and ancient rhymes with love and dreams to share. Sleigh bells in the air, beauty everywhere. Yuletide by the fireside with joyful memories there. Christmas time is here. We'll be drawing near. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the year. Christmas time is here. We'll be drawing near. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the year. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the year.
Next week, a profile on Captain Wendell O'Pruitt, who has his very own day on December 12th. Plus, a book about the short life and blazing art of poet Sylvia Plath. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.